Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. It's great to have you here. There are some hearts that seem to wander away even while they are standing perfectly still. You may have seen such a soul before, someone sitting quietly in a corner, a book open before them, their eyes fixed on the page, yet their mind miles away. That young soul is not truly present with us, for they have slipped into the delicate world of their own imagination. Their heart does not beat merely for what is happening in front of them, but for something softer, sweeter, and far more beautiful. It is in those secret hours of drifting thought that love takes its first fragile shape. Not the kind of love that is loudly spoken or written in letters, but the kind that grows silently, woven from longing, hope, and gentle dreams. This dreamer often feels love before ever touching a hand, before ever hearing a promise. In their mind, love is pure, unbroken, untouched by quarrels or the sharp edges of reality. They imagine eyes that look upon them with understanding, lips that speak kindness without hesitation, and arms that offer warmth even before the embrace begins. Their heart is alive in these imaginings, alive in a way the outside world may never quite allow. And while some may dismiss such musings as foolish, I cannot agree. For is it not through dreams that we first learn what our hearts desire? Is it not through daydreams that we give shape to the tenderness we crave? The dreamer's heart is both tender and bold. Tender, because it dares to feel deeply without proof. Bold, because it dares to hope when reality offers no such promise. To drift into a daydream is to confess that the world as it stands is not enough, that the heart requires something more, something beautiful, something that sings quietly to the soul. And so the dreamer lets their thoughts wander, and within those thoughts a love story begins to bloom. Imagine them sitting by the window as the golden light of afternoon streams across their face. Outside, the world is busy with its noise, but inside, a gentler world unfolds. Perhaps they see themselves walking in a garden where every flower seems to bend toward them as though sharing in their secret joy. Perhaps they see a figure approaching, someone who carries with them not only charm but kindness. And in that moment, without a word spoken, they feel loved. The dream may last only a heartbeat, but in that heartbeat is contained all the sweetness that reality so rarely grants us. Yet, the dreamer does not only imagine the presence of another. They imagine the feelings that come with it, the quiet thrum of anticipation, the safety of belonging, the unspoken bond that ties one heart to another. These feelings, though born in a dream, are no less true. For the heart does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It only knows what it feels, and the dreamer feels deeply. Their heart races at the thought of love, even if that love has not yet walked through their door. Some may call such hearts naive, but I believe they are the bravest of all. It takes courage to love without condition, to hope without certainty. The dreamer is not bound by the cold measures of reality. They believe that love can be gentle, that it can be steady, that it can endure even without proof. And though the world may disappoint them, though life may tear at their fragile illusions, they will never stop dreaming. Because their heart refuses to stop believing in the beauty it has already tasted, even if only in thought. And so, the dreamer drifts again and again, weaving love stories in silence, carrying them like precious secrets. They do not announce their longing to the world. They simply lave it in quiet ways, with halves, miles, and distant gazes. To watch them is to witness a heart that beats not just for today, but for what might be. They walk among us, but they also walk within a dream, where love feels more real than the ground beneath their feet. A heart like this teaches us that love is not always about possession, nor about grand gestures. Sometimes it is about the courage to feel fully, even when no one else understands. It is about daring to believe that somewhere, somehow, there exists a tenderness that matches our own. And though others may laugh at such dreaming, the dreamer knows something they do not, that even in the quiet of their own mind, love is alive. And that is the gift of a dreamer's heart, to remind us that even when reality is unkind, the soul can still create a place where love is possible, where it is felt, and where it endures. Love feels more real than reality. There are moments in life that arrive without warning, moments we do not seek, yet they find us all the same. It is in such an instant that two strangers may meet, not by design, but by the quiet hand of fate. Imagine the dreamer wandering through the world of their imagination, a place where every turn feels softer, every glance more meaningful, and every silence filled with possibility. And then, without plan or expectation, another figure appears. It is not a grand entrance that startles the dreamer, but rather a simple presence, the kind that feels at once surprising and inevitable. Perhaps their eyes meet in a quiet space where no words are exchanged, and yet something passes between them that no language could improve upon. The dreamer feels it immediately, the stirring of recognition, though they have never met before. The heart whispers that this stranger is not a stranger at all, but someone who belongs in the story already unfolding in the dreamer's mind. There is always a kind of wonder in such a meeting, for the imagination has long rehearsed it. The dreamer has pictured how it might feel, and now the imagined collides with the real. The world stands still for a breath. The crowd may go on rushing, the hours may keep pressing forward, yet within that moment everything halts. What strikes the dreamer most is not the details, the color of the stranger's eyes, the tilt of their smile, or the sound of their voice, but the sensation that something significant has just shifted. To meet unexpectedly in such a way is to awaken the heart. Suddenly, the daydream feels less like invention and more like prophecy. The dreamer's heart races not because they know what will happen, but because they do not. Love, even in its earliest spark, thrives on the unknown. And so the dreamer, timid yet courageous, allows themselves to wonder what story may now begin. Perhaps it starts with a word, a hesitant greeting that feels like the opening line of a novel. Or perhaps silence lingers, deep and telling, for sometimes a glance is enough to carry more meaning than 1,000 spoken phrases. Whatever form it takes, the meeting leaves its mark. Two paths that once moved separately now run close together, if only for a moment. And it is in that moment that the dreamer feels the richness of what could be. What makes such a meeting so powerful is its simplicity. There is no orchestration, no preparation, no carefully chosen setting. It is ordinary in every outward sense, yet extraordinary within. For what is love, if not the sudden recognition of possibility where none was expected? To meet another in this way is to feel the heart's dream reflected back, to see in another's face the very tenderness the soul has long imagined. The dreamer cannot help but replay it afterward. They recall the glance, the smile, the brief exchange of words, or even the absence of them. And though others might dismiss it as trivial, to the dreamer it is anything but. For in their heart it was no accident at all. It was the quiet aligning of two souls who might otherwise have passed without knowing the other existed. Of course, reality may not grant them another meeting. Days may pass, and the stranger may disappear back into the folds of the world. Yet the memory of that instant remains, and perhaps, just perhaps, life will surprise the dreamer again, allowing the story to continue. But even if it does not, the heart is changed. It has felt the rush of recognition, the sweetness of being seen, if only for a heartbeat, and so the dreamer carries it with them, this unexpected meeting that felt at once ordinary and miraculous. They tuck it into their imagination, where it blooms and grows. mingling with their daydreams until it becomes a part of them. Whether it is the beginning of a great love or merely a fleeting encounter, it matters deeply because it reminds them that love often comes when we least expect it. Love often arrives in the smallest moments, when two strangers cross paths and suddenly nothing feels quite the same. There is a kind of love that does not ask for grand declarations. It does not demand to be written in letters or shouted into the open air. Instead, it lingers quietly in the spaces between two people, growing stronger with every glance, every smile, every small gesture that others might never notice. This silent affection is often the truest of all, for it thrives not on what is said, but on what is deeply felt. Picture two souls moving through the same world, their paths brushing gently but never colliding too heavily. They may not exchange many words, yet when their eyes meet, there is a language unspoken, clear and undeniable. A single look, held just a moment longer than necessary, tells more than sentences ever could. The heart quickens not from touch or confession, but from the certainty that something precious has passed quietly between them. It is in the smallest gestures that this kind of love is revealed. The curve of a smile that appears almost involuntarily, the soft glance stolen when the other is not looking, the way laughter sounds warmer when they share it together. These are not accidents. They are the quiet promises of a heart that has chosen affection but has not yet dared to give it a voice. Such promises may not be written in ink or carved in stone, yet they feel more permanent than either. The beauty of silent affection lies in its restraint. There is power in the words never spoken, for they allow the imagination to fill in the spaces. Each glance becomes a story, each smile a chapter, and each lingering moment a page that the heart treasures in secret. What makes this so powerful is not only the feeling itself, but the trust that it will endure even without being named. Love that can survive in silence is often love that is deeply rooted. Of course, the world may not understand. To others, it may appear as nothing more than politeness, mere friendliness, or the simplest of courtesies. But to the two hearts involved, it is far more. They know the truth hidden behind the look, the weight carried in a pause, the longing tucked inside a smile. And so they live with this quiet knowledge, cherishing it because it is theirs alone. Silent affection asks for patience. It asks the heart to wait, to listen, to believe without immediate proof. It is not hurried, for it does not need to be. Instead, it grows slowly, like a flame that refuses to burn out, warming without consuming. The dreamer who feels this affection most deeply understands the sweetness of such restraint. They find joy in the anticipation, in the delicate hope that one day the silence may be broken. Until then, they are content to let love live quietly in the moments between words. There is also a certain safety in this silence. To keep affection unspoken is to protect it from the world's doubts and criticisms. It is a treasure kept in the heart, untouched by the noise outside. While some may see secrecy as weakness, it is in fact a kind of strength. To love silently is to carry within oneself a world of beauty that no one else can disturb. And when the other responds in kind, with a glance that lingers or a smile that softens at the edges, it is enough. For in those exchanges, the heart finds all the assurance it needs. This silent love may never bloom into open confession. Perhaps it will remain forever unspoken, a tender secret that lives only in memory. Yet even so, it leaves an imprint. For the dreamer who carries it, the world is forever changed by the knowledge that such affection is possible, that love can exist without ever demanding a voice. And should the silence one day break, should words finally be spoken, the love will not feel new. It will feel as though it has always been there, waiting patiently to be revealed. Some might think love must be loud to be true, that it must be shouted or shown in dramatic gestures. But the dreamer knows differently. They know that the most powerful love often moves quietly, hidden in the corners of daily life, disguised as nothing more than a smile or a glance. And when two hearts understand each other in silence, no words are needed at all. Love sometimes speaks the loudest in silence. There is a sweetness in dreams, a kind of shelter they offer the heart. Within them, love is tender and flawless, untouched by the weight of the world. The dreamer moves easily in this imagined place, where every word is kind, every glance is full of meaning, and every promise is kept. Yet sooner or later, reality arrives, and it seldom enters gently. It comes with sharp edges, with duties and disappointments, with the simple truth that life does not bend itself to match the beauty of our wishes. And it is here, in this uneasy meeting of dream and reality, that the heart is tested most deeply. For the dreamer, love was always pure, almost sacred, glowing with a light that could not be dimmed. But when the dream touches the ground, when the imagined becomes entangled with daily life, cracks begin to appear. A love that seemed effortless in the mind may stumble under the weight of expectation, or falter when pressed by circumstance. Words that sounded so gentle in a dream may emerge harsher in real conversation. Smiles that once promised forever may fade under the strain of ordinary days. The heart, so used to the freedom of its dreams, finds itself trapped in the harsh light of reality. There is pain in this clash, for the dreamer does not easily let go of what they imagine. They hold on fiercely to their vision of love, unwilling to believe it can be tarnished by the noise of life. And yet reality is relentless. It reminds them that people are imperfect, that affection can be fleeting, and that time does not pause simply because the heart wishes it so. The dreamer feels torn between two worlds, the one they long for and the one they must endure. Still, there is courage in this struggle. To live with both dream and reality is not to fail, but to grow. Love, if it is to survive, must learn to exist in the tension between what is imagined and what is true. The dreamer discovers that affection may not always be sweet, that devotion may not always be easy, yet it can still be real. It is not less precious because it is flawed. It may even be more so. For when love survives the trials of reality, it gains a strength no dream could ever grant. Consider the moments when hope falters, when arguments replace laughter, when silence feels heavier than words. In these times, the dreamer's heart aches with longing for the world they once carried inside their imagination. Yet it is in these very moments that the true measure of love is revealed. Will the heart give way to disillusion, or will it endure, holding fast even when the dream is clouded? This is the question reality always asks, and though the dreamer suffers in this conflict, they also discover new depths within themselves. They learn that love is not only the sweetness of desire, but also the patience of forgiveness, the strength of persistence, and the quiet choice to remain when leaving would be easier. These are not lessons taught in daydreams. They are carved into the heart by the demands of daily life. The dreamer may long for perfection, but reality teaches them something more valuable: endurance, honesty, and the grace to love even when it is difficult. The heart that survives this conflict becomes wiser, though perhaps a little bruised. It learns that dreams are not meant to vanish, but to guide. They give us a vision of what love could be, but it is reality that shapes what love becomes. And though it may never match the perfect beauty of a dream, it may grow into something even stronger, something that can withstand time and trial. The dreamer who once floated freely now walks more firmly, their heart tempered by experience, yet still alive with hope. For even as reality presses hard, the soul refuses to let go entirely of its dreams. It learns instead to weave them into daily life, to find sweetness in small gestures, to discover beauty even in the midst of struggle. The conflict between dream and reality does not destroy the dreamer, it deepens them, reminding them that love, though often tested, is worth every trial. Love is proven strongest when it survives the weight of reality. There is a kind of love that does not fade, even when time and distance rise like walls between two souls. It may be that circumstances draw them apart, miles stretch wide, responsibilities demand attention, or life simply shifts them onto different paths. Yet the heart, unwilling to surrender, keeps alive what memory has already planted. It clings not to the pain of absence, but to the sweetness of what was shared, carrying it like a quiet flame that refuses to be extinguished. The dreamer knows this well. They understand that love does not need to be nourished by daily presence to endure. It is enough to remember the tone of a voice, the brightness of a smile, the warmth of a glance once given. These things become treasures stored carefully within, ready to be called upon whenever the weight of longing grows too heavy. Each memory is a thread, and together they weave a bond that distance cannot unravel. There is beauty in the waiting. To hope for someone unseen is to practice a rare kind of faith, the faith that what has touched the heart once can never be lost entirely. Every sunrise carries with it a thought of reunion, every quiet evening a reflection on what it means to miss and still to love. The absence is not empty, it is full of echoes, full of reminders, full of the tender ache that proves the heart is still alive. The dreamer often wanders into their imagination, not to escape reality, but to feel nearer to the one they miss. They walk again through conversations once had, repeat the laughter they shared, recall the small gestures that meant more than words ever could. In these remembered moments, the distance shrinks and love feels close again. It may be an illusion, but it is one that brings comfort, and sometimes comfort is all the heart requires to endure. Yet this love is not only about remembering, it is also about believing. Believing that separation does not erase connection, that time does not weaken what is genuine, that love has a way of surviving even in silence. Hope becomes the constant companion of the dreamer. It whispers that every step taken apart is a step closer to being together again, that patience, though painful, is not without reward. There are days when longing aches like an open wound, when the absence feels too wide, too sharp. The dreamer may feel tempted to let go, to protect themselves from the ache of missing what is not near. But then, almost unexpectedly, a memory surfaces. The way a hand once reached for theirs, the softness of a smile that seemed meant only for them. And suddenly hope stirs again. It is these fragments of love, carried like sacred relics, that give strength to keep holding on. Distance, though cruel, has its own lessons. It teaches the heart to value what it once took for granted, to see love not as a constant presence, but as a rare and precious gift. It sharpens longing into clarity, reminding the dreamer of what truly matters. And when at last the distance is bridged, when two hearts are reunited, the joy is greater for the wait, the love deeper for the endurance. But even if reunion never comes, even if the distance proves unending, the hope itself is not wasted. For the dreamer has lived with love as their companion, and that is no small thing. To love across miles is to prove that love can stretch beyond boundaries, beyond time, beyond the limits of circumstance. It is to declare that the heart, once touched, can never return to indifference. So the dreamer waits, not with despair, but with quiet courage. They live their days with the memory close, drawing strength from the thought that somewhere, someone once gave them love, and that love continues to glow even across the divide. Distance may keep bodies apart, but it cannot silence the whispers of the heart. Love endures when hope keeps it alive. For so long, the dreamer believed love could only live within the walls of imagination, in those tender visions where everything felt effortless and perfect. In the dream, love was radiant, untouched by quarrels, unharmed by time, and wrapped in the sweetness of fantasy. Yet the heart, as it matures, comes to learn something gentler, something truer, that love is not only found in the grand dreams we carry, but in the smallest, simplest moments of real life, and it is within these moments that love often shines brightest. It does not always announce itself with music or with sweeping gestures. Instead, it slips into the ordinary days, hidden in laughter shared over something trivial, in the comfort of sitting quietly beside someone without the need for words, in the warmth of a hand reaching out without being asked. The dreamer, once lost in visions of flawless romance, begins to see that reality, though imperfect, holds its own kind of magic. There is sweetness in the way two people can speak without speaking, communicating through familiar glances that outsiders could never understand. There is sweetness in the quiet trust that grows when one stays by another's side in times of difficulty, offering not solutions but presence. Love reveals itself in these gestures that require no performance, no stage, only sincerity. The dreamer begins to understand that dreams gave them the outline, but real life fills it with color. The imagined love was grand, yes, but it was only a sketch. It is in the living, through mornings shared, burdens carried, and joys celebrated, that love becomes whole. It is not diminished by simplicity, rather it is strengthened by it. For what could be more beautiful than finding the extraordinary within the ordinary? Think of a moment when laughter comes suddenly, spilling into the room without restraint. Think of the way a smile can soften the harshness of a long day, or how silence shared between two people can feel as full as the most eloquent speech. These are not the moments the dreamer once pictured, yet they are the ones that linger in memory. They are not rehearsed, not crafted by imagination, but given freely by life itself. There is also tenderness in the flaws. Reality, unlike a dream, shows us the rough edges of those we love, their impatience, their mistakes, their weariness. At first, this may feel like a disappointment to the dreamer, who once pictured perfection. But slowly, they come to see that love is not about avoiding flaws, but embracing them. To love truly is to hold both the beauty and the imperfection, to accept the whole rather than chase only the ideal. In this acceptance lies the depth that dreams could never provide. The sweetest lesson is that love does not need to be constant ecstasy to be real. It can be quiet and steady, built on patience, kindness, and trust. It may not always dazzle, but it endures, and in its endurance it becomes more profound than any fleeting dream. What once seemed small, sharing a meal, walking together in silence, hearing the familiar sound of a voice, becomes the very proof of love. These are the moments that sustain the heart, the ones that remain even when passion softens and the glow of newness fades. The dreamer realizes that while imagination painted love in brilliant strokes, reality reveals it in the humble acts of everyday life. This lesson is not one of loss but of gain. To see love in the ordinary is to never be without it. Even in the simplest day, there is room for affection, for kindness, for connection. And once the dreamer understands this, their heart is no longer divided between fantasy and reality. The two merge, and love becomes something both dreamed and lived, both imagined and true. The greatest love is found not only in dreams, but in the simple moments of real life. Thank you for joining me on this journey through love's dreams and life's lessons. If these words touched your heart, let them remind you of the beauty hidden in everyday moments. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these stories alive. So if you enjoyed this, please give it a like and share it with someone who loves stories too. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt journeys. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep loving.